All right, let's get right into it. In this explainer, we're going to break down the war in Ukraine by focusing on a single day. And we're doing it using the intelligence from the Institute for the Study of Wars report from August 2nd, 2025. So let me ask you this. When you're looking at a conflict this massive, what's the one thing that really moved the needle on this particular day? Well, the answer probably isn't what you're thinking, because the most significant event, the thing that really mattered, it wasn't happening in the trenches or out in the fields of the Donbass. Nope. It was happening hundreds of kilometers away, deep inside Russia itself. And that brings us to our first major topic, Ukraine's deep strikes. On the night of August 1st, Ukraine launched this huge, coordinated drone attack, aiming right for the heart of Russia's ability to wage war. And you gotta understand, this was anything but random. The ISW report makes it clear this was a really smart, strategic operation. They didn't just hit a target, they hit a whole system. They went after the fuel for the tanks and jets, the factories building the weapons, the air defenses protecting those factories, and even the sites launching drones at Ukraine. It was a full-spectrum attack on the Russian war machine. Now, to really get a sense of the scale here, look at this number, 17 million tons. That is the annual refining capacity of just one of the facilities that got hit, the Ryazan oil refinery. We're talking about one of Russia's 4 largest refineries, and the attack sparked a massive fire and a major destruction. And here's why that really matters militarily. This isn't just about money. That one refinery produces over 8% of all of Russia's aviation kerosene. That's jet fuel. So when you hit this facility, you're trying to drain the fuel tanks of the Russian Air Force. It's a direct shot at their logistics. But they went even deeper, hitting the very brain and nervous system of the military. One strike hit a plant that makes secure command and control systems. Another hit a factory producing communication gear for tanks and air defense. It's like they're trying to cut the lines between the commanders and the soldiers. And on top of all that, they hit a key airbase for those Shahed drones, attacking the weapon right at its source. Of course, a war like this isn't just fought with weapons. It's also fought with words, with information. And frankly, the Kremlin's response to other things happening on this day was just as revealing as the drone strikes themselves. Just look at this contrast. It's pretty wild. The U.S. announces a major strategic move, sending 2 nuclear submarines closer to Russia. And the official Kremlin response? Nothing. Crickets. Absolute radio silence from the government, the Ministry of Defense, the Foreign Ministry, everybody. The ISW report calls this dissonant. And yeah, you can see why. So if the government isn't talking, who is? The mill bloggers. These nationalist commentators jumped right into that information vacuum. You get quotes like this one, bragging that a new Russian sub is far superior and will be deployed in response. It's this unofficial attempt to project strength when the state itself is staying quiet. But, and this is a big but, while they were silent on the submarines, the Kremlin was really loud about so-called peace talks. Foreign Minister Lavrov comes out, blames Ukraine for the lack of progress, all while just repeating Russia's old maximalist demands. The message, as the ISW sees it, is pretty clear. This isn't a real search for compromise, it's a demand for Ukraine to completely capitulate. Okay, so let's pivot. Let's go from that high-level strategic chess match back to the brutal, grinding reality of the actual war on the ground, where every single inch is being fought over. This map from the ISW report zooms us right in on the area southwest of Toretsk. This has been a major focus of the Russian offensive for a while now, a spot where they are just applying constant, immense pressure. And what happened here on this day? Well, geolocated footage confirmed it. Russian forces did manage to advance. It was a clear, documented gain for them in one of their main areas of attack. But the front line is never that simple. It's never just one story. While Russia was gaining ground there, the picture looked totally different in another part of Donetsk, over in the Novopavlivka direction. Over here, it was the exact opposite story playing out. The ISW confirmed, again with hard geolocated footage, that Ukrainian forces had advanced. They were counterattacking. It's just a perfect snapshot of the contested, back-and-forth, seesaw reality of this ground war.
All right, let's pull that camera lens back one last time. Because this war isn't just being fought in Ukraine and Russia. It's also being fought on the global economic front lines where all the money and resources come from.
The ISW report really sheds a light on how incredibly complicated this economic war is. You've got India, a major world power, continuing to buy huge amounts of Russian oil. And this creates a really tricky situation, especially since it's happening at the same time the U.S. is hitting other Indian exports with new tariffs. And this quote from India's foreign ministry spokesperson really drills down to the core challenge for the West. India sources its energy needs based on what is available in the markets. Essentially, they're saying national interest comes first. And at the end of the day, purchases like these from big economies act as a vital lifeline for Russia, limiting just how much sanctions can really hurt their ability to pay for this war.
So, where does all of this leave us? We've seen these incredibly strategic Ukrainian strikes deep inside Russia, a really tense and strange information war, a brutal fight on the ground with wins and losses for both sides, and a super complex global economic battle. It all builds to this final, really critical question that the day's events make us ask. As these drones keep hammering Russia's industrial heartland, is the war's true center of gravity actually shifting away from the front lines and toward the factories, the refineries, and the supply chains that fuel this entire conflict? That's the big thing to watch.